Welcome. I just wanted to start out by saying that this will be a little bit of a longer video because I'm sharing some different techniques with you. There are some parts where I speed it up if you are familiar with these techniques, so feel free to jump ahead. But thank you for joining me, and I hope you stay till the end. Enjoy!
Hey friends, welcome back. Today we are going to be using some milk paint, and I'm going to show you how to get this soft watercolor effect. This has a few different pieces, so I tested everything on here, and then I also did this tote, and with the exact same way that I did this frame, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Then, so it has some three more pieces. Well, there's more pieces, but three more elements to this. Actually, let me show you this before. So it is two pieces, like two layers, and then these are 1, 2, 3. There's actually 4 layers here. So I did the sides, and in hindsight I should have maybe not even done the back, but done this part of the easel because you can see it. However, where I have it sitting in my house, you can't see it. So okay, so what I'm going to be showing you is how to do the technique on this that I did on this frame. I'm going to show you how to do this whole watercolor effect and the background. We are going to do this frame piece on these little guys here. I've gone ahead and started getting some stuff prepped because you don't need to watch me stain and base coat. I see it, there's just a little piece of something in there. Okay, so the frame that goes around these, I'm going to show you how to do this technique on. Okay, then there is these pieces that will pop out of the template once we're done painting, and they will go on top. So you'll get a layered look, and it will look like this when we are done. This is like a watercolor effect I'm going to show you, and we start by putting 2 coats of fusion casement on there. And all I did to get, like, for the staining of these is it is the Colonial Salmon. Every now and then I picked up a little bit of dark oak, as you can see here, and I didn't care if things were even or not. Okay, so let's just put this aside. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted, so I hope I don't forget anything here. Okay, so I showed you the little frames that we're going to be working on. There is a tassel. So this little flower, we'll put it together, and it will be on the jute part with the beads. So we are going to get that guy done. I won't do all of these in the video, but I'm going to show you the technique, and then I'll show you all the finished pieces on the end. Okay, so these, there's an anemone, snapdragon, peony, primrose, and crocus, and there's holes here. They're actually to hang this way and be a banner, and then they're layered, like all these pieces will go on, then there's a cute little tag. I'm not going to make a banner out of this, and I didn't think about that when I cut them. But I still think that these holes might be useful. Like there's a time where you might want to hang it upside down on something. But what I was thinking is if this was filled with greenery or pots, anything, you could pop it like inside of that, and it would be really cute. And if the crocus kind of hangs down, it would cover the hole. and you could wood fill those if you really, really wanted to. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to be fine. So, like I was saying before, we paint everything with white first. I am going to be showing you some floating techniques on how to get this color here. We're going to do some dry brushing. You're going to need some candle wax that is going to help reveal these layers, because there's 3 different layers on the frame. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just going to go over the colors with you. So the milk paint that we're using on the frame is Fusion Mineral Paint Sturbridge White. There is another one called Hotel Robe, and you could use it too. Okay, so we've gone through casement. Champness is the blue that we're using. Acacia Pear, Bellwood, and let me make sure I'm not going to make a mistake here. Yes. Okay. I just about told you another color that you did not need. Okay, buttermilk cream, and I did also use mustard. Sometimes if I know I'm not going to use much of a color infusion, I will buy it in these small little ones. And my Bellwood, I'm still using the remainder in this jar here. And then I already showed you the Sandman Colonial and Dark Oak. I think I showed it all to you. You'll need some sandpaper, makeup sponges. I did 2 coats of casement on here. It's not 100% full coverage. That's okay. Sandpaper, because you want this nice and smooth. You'll need some some brushes for dry brushing, and you're going to need, this is pretty important, just cleaning my brush here. You're going to need an angle brush. This is a 1/2 inch angle brush, and this is what we're going to use for floating. And I also use a small mop brush, and I think this is a 1/2 inch. It is worn off. Guys, I don't know where you're going to get these exact brands anymore. I will look and see if I can link them. I have been a decorative painter for like 20 plus years, and I have had these brushes for a very long time. But Michaels will have, like this is a Robert Simmons one. I have Low Cornell, which I use most of the time. It's just, this just happens to be the one I have in my hand. This is Low Cornell too. And this is called a Low Cornell Maxine's mop. And I believe it's 1/2 inch. I really just can't see it. I'm positive it's a 1/2 inch. So I will do my best to link those for you. I also did use, here's a Low Cornell one as well. This is a 3/8 inch angular, and I use that in some of the really, really small places, so you can see like the difference in the sizes there. Hopefully you can see that all right. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, no, one more thing. I use my trusty little scraper sometimes. And it's just a plastic scraper with, you can change these razor blades too. And I just get this off of Amazon. All right. So, then, oh, that's not what we want to do yet. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. I want these little frame pieces. I want to show you the distressing on that. So, because it has 3 layers, like I was saying, so we want to get going. So I just have an old candlestick here. I'm going to do the outside and the inside. Okay, and the top. And it doesn't have to be full coverage. The other thing you can do to make this go a little quicker is go and do the edges of all 3 of these as well. Okay, so I'm gonna just finish waxing all of the frame pieces, and then we are going to coat it in champness. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have wax on the edges of all of these and all of these. I just wanted to show you that to make this go by quicker, because we're doing it piece by piece, if you stack them together and then rotate them, you can get your wax on really, really quickly. And the same with these edges too. I've already done this, but I'm just going over it again. And also, I wanted to tell you, like, you'll see, like, when you get like chunks of wax on there, leave it. It just adds to this effect. So you might not be able to see this on camera, but there is some beautiful crackling in here and some chippiness. And we want to be able to see the layers of paint, like stain. So, you know, maybe originally it was painted, or it was a stained frame, and then somebody painted it blue, and then they're painting it white, and then it's aged, right? Like just what old, beautiful chippiness looks like. So if there was a way to do this without getting it all on here, I would assemble it and then do it assembled. Because this piece here, I painted it assembled. And the words, I glued them on and painted them exactly the way I'm painting. We're going to paint this just in a bigger version, and you can really see the crackle here. And I allowed the paint and everything to get down into the scoring on here because I want this to look old. And then the back side of it is plain. So you could do, leave it plain and display it either way, or you could do something else on the side that would be really cute too. You could make it seasonal. All right, so champness is what we are going to do. And I know this is a little tedious with all these little pieces, but this is how you get this look. So small brush, whatever you want. I just seem to have a round brush sitting here. I probably should have something bigger. I'm not even worried if I get full coverage, but let's get it on all the tops. I'm not going to do this all while you, I'm not going to make you watch all of this. And then on the sides, you might need 2 coats on the side. But you know what? I'm not. I'm happy with that. It soaks it up a lot on the sides, but we are going to put more paint over top of this. But when you were done and the sides, if you decided that you wanted more, then just go ahead and put more on if it soaked up too much. Okay, so we're going to do that to all of the frame pieces, and then we are going to take these, and I think I'm just going to stack them and paint them together. It's okay if you get a little bit on the front because the frame pieces will cover. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get these all painted, and then when it's dry, we'll be back. Okay, these are all dry. They're actually stuck to my surface here. I've painted all the sides. Well, not the back sides, but I've painted all 3 sides, okay? And then I've got these, I've got them painted all the sides too. So I'm not going to show you this on everything because this is very repetitive. But what I did want to show you is the words and this banner are done this exact same way that I'm going to show you right now with just one extra step. And the extra step is once we're done just revealing some of our stain underneath, I just dry brushed with casement over top of them. And then this little company sign here, is done the same way, except instead of champness, I used casement. So I think that's it. So all this is so simple. Simple, simple, simple. You can even see where some of the stain is already showing through because I just didn't have full coverage, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So take my scraper, go over it, and it just reveals. And you can do the edge, because that paint really soaks in. You might have to, you know, hit it with your sander instead, just to reveal some of that. And if you don't get enough scraping, use your sander on the edge too. I know that these are such teeny tiny little pieces, so it is really hard to see, but you see how we're just revealing some of that? So I'm going to do all of these pieces, and really we can probably do these all together. You can see all the detail that we have revealed. Well, not detail, but the stain that we've revealed. So it's already looking nice and chippy. So for the fresh blooms and the banner, you would just take a dry brush and dry brush it over. And like I said, we will show you how to, I'll show you how to do that. We'll get to it. Okay. So my milk paint has thickened up nicely. Okay, so this is 2 parts powder, 1 part water. That, and then I let it sit, and it's starting to thicken up. But once you start stirring it, it kind of just thins out a little bit. But it's still a nice thickness, but you can see like it dripping off. I don't know how to make you see that better, but it's, you know, like it's not a thick consistency. Maybe like a milkshake. That's probably a good description. Okay, mine is still a little gritty. For this technique, that is okay. If you were wanting smooth milk paint, use a little whisk or one of those little tiny immersion blenders, and that will help get all of that out. But this is good for me. This is what I want. That grittiness just kind of adds to the look that we are going for. So I don't really need that big of a brush, but we'll use this guy. And I'm just gonna get this off of here. You don't even need one this big, but this is what I grabbed. This is what we're using. So I'm just gonna go over all of these. This is, whoops, you know what I already forgot to do? We're gonna just wipe that back, because I forgot to go over this with candle wax. Make sure you're at least getting the wax on those stained areas we revealed, so that they can be revealed when through the milk paint too. And then of course on some of the blue. So really what I'm always seem to do is I almost go over the entire surface, and then because it doesn't all scrape back, right? Plus this also helps with the crackling. So okay, now we're ready. So you will likely need 2 coats of this. So we'll let that dry. Probably we'll have to separate them. Okay, so I wanted to show you that what I actually ended up doing in the end was putting them all together, painting them, and then I did forget to mention in between your coats, use a heat gun, because that also really helps with the crackling. And yeah, they're all stuck together right now, but they're all going to come apart. So, like, they look so good. Like, look at some, oh, that's not in focus for you, I hope. I don't know. There, that might be, that's better in focus. So, I'll get real good close-ups of these with, when I take photos, so. All right, this is my absolute favorite way to make things chippy, and even though, like, when I have them all stacked, some of that paint seeped through, you won't be able to see that on camera. It leaves ridges. I am okay with that because it just looks like real, you know, painted wood where somebody dripped and didn't scrape it off. So depending on how much blue and stain we want to show through is going to depend on, well, whoops. It's hard to hold them all at the same time. Depending on how much you want to show through will make you decide how much pressure when you scrape. All right, these are looking fantastic. It's just, I'm not gluing this on yet because we're going to do some dry brushing on here, but I just want to show you what it's going to look like. You may or may not hear a vehicle starting up. The garage is like kind of above me, and to the side, and my husband's out there working on a truck. So, okay. So, chippy goodness everywhere. It looks so good. If you want more, just go ahead and sand a little bit more. You can even get a more, like this, what am I trying to say here? My goodness. This is 320 grit. You could even grab like a 200. And let me just do that and I'll show you what that's going to look like. 200, you could even grab a 120, or actually that's what I have on my hand here is 120. So let me just show you what that's going to look like. See, it's just going to get down in there a little bit more. Now remember that the sides of our laser pieces are dark. So that dark is what is showing through on these. The top, it's colonial. If you liked that dark, you could have stained the sides of these all with that dark oak. It matches almost perfectly. But that's why I put a tiny little bit of dark oak in there, just to darken up the colonial a little bit. But it's, I like it like this, like it's dark on the edges, but it's lighter for the most part on the top. It's a little darker up there, but that's the way I like it. So, okay. I have a little bit of casement here, and I forgot, but I actually dry brushed with iron earth, salmon iron earth. So I'm going to put a little bit of this out. You don't have to use this. You can use dark oak. Colonial obviously is not going to show up because this is colonial. I'm going to put white, not very much. And then I have a piece of paper towel here. I'm offloading a lot. Like, I want most of it off. And then I'm just going to drag back and forth. I'd rather go over it more times and load my brush more times than get too much. So that to me is enough for now until we put the stain on. With the stain this time, and again, you need to get a lot of it off. And then we are going to do the same thing. We're just going to drag it across. I find that the bigger the brush for this, the more control you have and the nicer dry brushing you get. Like this one here has a few more streaks in it. It looks a little bit linier. It's just the difference in the brushes. So there's nothing wrong with this too. This is just a more subtle. Now we can glue these together. Stain the back. I'm not going to glue them on camera. It's no different than any of my other videos when I'm gluing. Alright, I have them all glued on. They look lovely. If you have a little gap here, it's probably because you've got some paint in there, and I did, but I didn't worry about it. If you wanted to, you could take, oh, I just realized that this one slipped. It's not actually sitting there properly. That's okay, dried now. You could take some milk paint and stick in those cracks, but to me it just adds to it. They're old. They look like they're coming apart. So you could also sand and scrape any more that you wish to do here. So they are all done. I just wanted to show you that I glued this one on, clamped it, glued this one on and clamped it, made sure that it fit properly there, glued this one on, clamped it, and did the same, and then put this one on, and then I clamped them all and let them sit. We've got those. Okay, they're looking great. So I've decided that the anemone is going to be white, so I'm going to be doing some shading with the blue champness. The snapdragon and the peony I'm going to make yellow, so I am going to be doing some, I'm going to do a all over wash with the, I always say this name wrong, it is buttermilk cream, and then we're going to be shading with mustard. And then the leaves, I will be doing a wash with bellwood, and then we are going to be shading with acacia pear, and then dry brushing everything with white casement. Okay, so I thought I would just give you a little rundown there of what we are going to do. So I want to start with the two that are going to be yellow. So we'll bring this buttermilk cream in, and I want this really quite watered down. I don't know why I have that brush. I want my angle brush. And this is not true floating yet. We're doing more of a wash. I'm allowing a lot of water to be in here. And I want to go around my edges where, like up against the lines in where the shadows will be. I actually don't even have it all the way out to the edge. If it went to the edge, that would be okay. So imagine where your petals meet. That is where a shadow and a highlight are going to be. So this one here, I know it can be a little tricky to see. We're going to get in here up against this petal and then underneath here because it folds over. If you get paint in your score lines, just take your razor knife and there we go. And then just touch it up. Just put that there because we're going to need that again for sure. And we're going to do the same all the way around. You could get that small 3/8 inch brush out, and I will do that right away. Right now, this, I want it to be almost the whole petal. I'm okay if the tips stay white because that's going to be a highlight. That just means that that's less that we have to do right now. When we get to less dry brushing we have to do later, sorry. When we get to floating with the mustard, we will be doing it a lot thinner and we will have less water. But like that is so pretty. You don't want the paint all the way across and you don't want too much water in that it's pooling. And what I'm using beside me is like a palette paper that I get on a pad from Michael's in the art section, and it's kind of waxy, so you could use wax paper for this too, and it helps walk your paint through the brush. I don't have enough paint on there. Just helps walk the paint through the brush, and then that's how you're floating it, because notice I'm only loading the corner. I'm gonna get the smaller brush here. So now I've got my smaller brush. So when I get my water out, I always squeeze it out with my fingers. That's how I've done it for years, and that's the feel that I get. And if I get a little bit too much water in there, you can just squeeze out the end. Sometimes you have to wash your brush and start again if you've got too much water or too much paint all the way across your brush. These little tiny bits in here, we need more paint. They can be finicky, and so you may end up covering the entire petal, but try to just make sure that you've got the darkest part of the yellow, the bottom of each petal. And we will define this more. If you cover the entire petal, that is okay, because we can float on our highlight and white as well as dry brush. Okay, look how pretty that is looking so far. So we are doing that one, and this Snapdragon is going to take a lot of floating here. So these pieces up here are pretty easy because you will just float the bottoms basically of all of them. Have to kind of just use your imagination. You could get like a picture of a Snapdragon out, but I'm going to do this center one here. So we're going to do this petal. And then we're going to do the bottom of this petal. And I'm okay if we almost fill in the whole thing, because this part here is going to be a highlight. So it's okay if most of this gets filled in, and we will come back and highlight it later. There's some of these parts that you can just, these teeny tiny parts, you can just go in with the tip of your brush and fill them in. These petals here are like bent over. How do I describe that? So if this is, let me see, I don't even have like a silk flower here, which is weird. I always do. We'll use this. Okay, so I'm looking at like these petals here. Okay, that petal is actually folded over. You probably can't. Let's use the big leaf. That would make more sense. So it's actually folded over. Okay, so the sunlight is going to hit the top of this and this. So there's going to be some shading in kind of in the center, but without getting too technical with our floating in these tiny little spots, what we're going to do is float the top of it. And then when we come back in with our highlights, we are highlighting the bottom of the petal. And then that's going to give the illusion of that curve. Don't get too hung up on this. Honestly, it's going to look beautiful no matter what. You can tell it's a snapdragon. So okay, I'm just going to finish this up. My battery looks like it is going to die here. And when I come back, I will show you how to add in the mustard, and then it'll really start coming to life. Done there. And you can see a little bit of white on the petals, the outer edges of those petals, and that's exactly what we want. All right, so let's just use a little bit of mustard. I'm just gonna pull a smidgen of it out and put on my palette here. You don't need very much at all. Okay, so it's a full brush right out of the water, and I've just got like a good pressure on it, and I'm just running my fingers over it, dipping my corner into my paint. So it's just that tip that has it. I can already see, you can't probably see this very much, but you will see if you have water, like a puddle, I still have too much. So I'm just going to squeeze out that end, and I still have quite a bit in there actually. I'm going to get a little bit more paint, and if you start getting paint all the way through, you've got too much. Okay? I've got a big goober of paint on there. There we go. So I'm going to just start in the center here. I'm just floating it on there, and then I'm going to take my mop and I'm just going to soften it. So you see how it's just deeper there? Now we can go even deeper and like with a second coat. But we're just going to start here because our white, when we put it on, is going to help this yellow pop. Now, if you don't have to use that mop too. If you are happy with your floating and it's nice and smooth, you don't have to use the mop. The mop is nice as a beginner learning to float. It just helps. Oh, that mustard is really thick, so you really get a good gob of paint. Anyhow, it really helps to just soften your floats when you are first starting out. Whoops. What I did, I got up into this one. So I'm just going to go back over it again, and you see how it just deepens it even more, and now you can really see that highlight. Okay, so we're just going to continue going over all of those places where we put that first bit of yellow. And if you ever need any more water, just dip just the very, very tip in, and a little bit more paint. Walk it out on your palette and place it down. There'll be some places where you'll be like, yeah, I don't even need to use that mop. And a lot of these tiny little spots will be it. You don't need to use that mop. But you also don't want a line of mustard there too. So if you're using a thicker paint like I am, you just have to be careful that you're really blending it through your brush. Okay, we're gonna get these guys done now. I know you can't see this well, but again, we're just gonna go, I've already done just these top ones. I didn't even use my mop in there because there's nothing to mop. Like, you barely get any color in. And you just need the teeniest little bit of paint and water. See the darker and the lighter spots here. We're just going to let this dry, and when we go back in with white, you'll really be able to see it. we're going to get this guy done and we can move back to our 1/2 inch brush. Okay, and we've got some casement here, so I'm just going to dip the corner, there, the corner of my brush in, go over to my palette paper, and walk it through. All right. You will most likely really need your mop brush now. I still have some yellow in here, but it's dry. But if it's too gunky, you'll have to wash it out. So we're not washing this one. This one is just gonna be, the background is gonna be white, and we will do the center with some yellow. Didn't actually think about that. I have an idea. Okay, and there's 2 leaves here, so we want to make sure that we're not touching those leaves. So let's start up here on these petals, and we just a little bit. You don't need much, and I'm happy with that. I'm not going to mop that. This petal, I'm going to start here and float it all the way down to the center. I'm going to mop it just to soften it, because I'm going to float that spot right up to the center on that same petal, and I'm going to mop it to soften it. You don't want to keep going over wet paint. So if you don't like what you've done, let it dry. Well, you can take it completely off, but most times let it dry and then go back and float again. So float, mop, let it dry, and move on. And then we can go back. So we're going to go down the side. Don't be afraid to move your piece. Okay, if you get brush marks in there, or if it seems too thick and solid, mop it out. And it's actually a good idea to let that dry before we even do across the bottom of that petal. If you have floated lots before, then you would be able to probably go in and do it, but we'll just leave it. If your brush starts to separate, you need a little extra water. If it starts to drag, that also means you need water. Okay, so this one, we need to go all the way down in there, and then we can walk it that way. And let's mop. I have some brush marks in there because I was tapping. The mopping gets it out. The center of this flower, I'm going to use that buttermilk cream. I want to float the center. With that, I'm just going to leave the top part white for our highlight. Okay, we're going to let that dry. Then we need to have some, oh, I already have it out, some bellwood. Let's start the leaves. So it's the exact same process that we've been doing. The nice thing about having the template here is if you come outside of your lines, it's okay. we are going to pick up a little bit of mustard. A little bit more, and let's get the center here. Oh, there's a goober on the end. There we go. I want it to be even darker, so we gotta let that dry and go over it. Okay, that piece, hopefully that's dry. Let's just go over that again. I was also thinking that you could take, to darken that center, just a tiny, tiny bit of your colonial stain. Let's see. And if you float that in, it will just deepen it a little more. And then really mop it out. Yep, that was great. And we can always add, whoops, if you go in wet on wet, you dig a hole. So you got to be careful. You wait for it to dry. You can always go in and do a little bit more. All right, we need some Acacia pear. Oh, you know what? This was Acacia pear. Bellwood was in the jar. This was Acacia pear. So we were supposed to do Acacia pear on the leaves, and we didn't. So, I mean Bellwood, we did Acacia pear. So, all right, well that's okay. So this is what we're gonna do. You can either do exactly what I'm doing and not even use the Bellwood, because we are going to do some dry brushing here, and then we're going to go back in and deepen up this Acacia pear. The Bellwood is a little softer, but once we get all the dry brushing on there, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to pull the casement over here, and we're going to float in some highlights. You may want to mop, you might not, it just totally depends. I'm leaving it nice and heavy on there, but it's a really smooth float. So if it's not going on smooth, then go ahead and mop it. And when you're floating your white, to get a nice bright highlight, you sometimes have to go over it a couple, 2-3 times. But this is shaping up wonderfully. So you can see how it's really defined now. All right, so before my battery died there, we had just finished floating the white on this petal. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to float this one and the peony. I'm going to show you just a smidgen on this one, so that you can kind of see where I am floating the white on. All right, so it's going to be the tips of all of these. You see how it's already starting to pop back to life here? And so it's just where the sun would be hitting it. all those round little tops. Okay, so then when we start to get to where these leaves are folded over, like I was saying before, this is too small to worry about it. But when the petal is folded over, we have a highlight here, and then we shade in here. We are just going to highlight here. These are way too tiny to be worried about that kind of detail. So, and it'll still give you the illusion of a folded over petal. I don't know if you'll need your mop here or not. If you get it on too heavy, of course, mop it. Okay, and then we need to do the top of that. So I'm just going to continue, and if at any point I thought, oh, I got way too much white, you just go back with a little bit of mustard. All right, so when I come back, this and this white is going to be done, and then we are going to do some dry brushing and finish up the leaves. Oh, wait, I didn't. I'm just trying, because I messed these leaves up, I'm trying to decide what we should do here. If we should, oh yeah, we're gonna highlight, we're gonna float the tops of all of these leaves before we dry brush, and then we can decide if we need to go back in and deepen up our shadows, which we probably will. Okay, I have got my first coat of all my white floated on the leaves, the petals, everything. Before we dry brush, this is the time, and you might even do this a couple times, but you want to go back in and deepen any shadows that you think you need. If you found that you maybe got a little heavy with some of your white, you can go in and add in some shadows. Like here, I don't even know if I put any. I'm sure I did. It just doesn't look like it. So we need a dry brush here. What are we going to use? Somebody needs to clean their brushes. This will work. Okay, so I need some casement and my paper towel. So we need to offload. You don't want to use too big of a brush right now for this. So you can kind of see here on the leaves, I didn't really have any specific direction. I kind of went with the direction of the leaf, but I don't know, I really didn't either. So, and the same with the petals. Okay, but I want to go with the direction of the petals. So if I'm dry brushing, I'm pulling it up from the edge of the petal. This is very subtle. And the reason I like to have it out of the template is because you can pull in from these leaves and you hit the edges and you actually end up getting a really nice dry brush. It just makes it a little heavier on the edge. Especially on the top here, I kind of feel like I lost my highlight. So this really helps to pull that highlight through. Okay, here you just got to be careful. I'm just very lightly dry brushing, like very, very lightly. Just still kind of following the shape of my petals and whoops, got a little heavy there. It's okay. Q-tip right away and it comes right off. And look how beautiful. Like it's really popped. Okay. Oh, that is the wrong one. Look at how beautiful that is. So this guy's going to be a little trickier, but if you just dry brush from the side in, you're going to hit all the edges here, which is really going to help just pop those, whoops. Got a big goober on here. There we go. Really going to help pop those edges. And then if you want, you can just ever so lightly hit some of your bigger petals. Pear again, and we are just going to go back in and deepen and mop it. You see the difference between, well, like this one got a lot of weight from the dry brushing, that one did too, but I softened it with the bellwood. So want this to go right underneath of that flower petals, and see, it's just really helps define that leaf. Aren't they beautiful? All right, I am going to paint these all the same way. And then I will show them to you all finished. I'm going to glue these on. Oh, you know what else I did here? I actually very gently sanded the edges of all of these. I remember doing that. Now you're going to want a much lighter grit, like 320 or 400. And just want to move these out of the way. And I just be careful on these leaves. Hold them like with your other hand when you are sanding them. And I forgot to show you this. When you're dry brushing, like when I hit the edges, but if you feel like you need more stability after you hit the edges, you can put this back in here and dry brush over that. Okay, I wanted to just pop on because as I was doing some of these other pieces, I thought there's a couple more things I could show you. So one, we'll work on this guy here. This is still floating exactly the way I showed you before, but I want to show you how I keep it light in the center. So I just am loading my brush with champness, and I just started by doing a small float along the bottom edge there and mopping it, and then another one along this bottom, and I walked it out a little bit and then mopped it, and that's how you get that nice softness. And then I did the top, let it dry, did each side, and now it's dry again. And I wasn't sure if this was going to show or not, so I did a little bit there. So, but I want to show you how, and then just walk it out a little bit, and then you can mop it. And when you're mopping, you actually sometimes are moving your paint around depending on how much paint you have, so you're getting this nice feather into the center. And then you don't have to highlight too much in here because it's basically done for you. I will put a highlight down here on the top. Okay, so, and then I'm going to do the top part again, and I'll probably do this very bottom part again. So I introduced one more color. I wasn't thinking I needed a color here. So I introduced hazelwood, and I just did an all over wash on this the spray pump, and I'm going to show you that because on these hanging pieces I've done an all over wash on all of the green, and so I just want to show you that. And then I just went back in and started shading with the hazelwood, and I will highlight with the white. There's a couple spots here that I haven't finished. nice light wash of bellwood on here, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So you can, I usually just get a little bit of water. I'll just do it here. A little bit of bellwood. I need more water than that. Okay. Now you don't have to worry about where these flower petals are because they are going to be covered. Okay, so, and you can get like right up around, and if you go over top of them a little bit, like I said, it won't matter because they are going to be covered. So this is really wet. I can really move my paint around nicely. If it starts to drag, you need more water. If you feel like you've got it too heavy in spots, or you're going down into your score lines a little bit too much, see how I'm moving that paint around? Because there's actually quite a bit on my brush now, and I can move it around. I'll finish my other sentence in a second. Okay. Just soften it, move it around. So with that mop brush, it actually pulled out all the color in my score lines there with that mop. And then if I needed to, I'd just go back in with my knife if I did get too much in there, but let it dry. Now, you could leave some of your edges light, just like we do when we're floating the flowers and what we did with the other leaves. But there's a lot of different pieces to float in here with your leaves, and I will speed up a version of me floating these. But this does help. Actually, why don't I do that right now? So we've got bellwood down there. Let's float in some bellwood in some of those places where we think, like where we already know the shadows are going to start. So under all flower petals, down the sides of stems, okay, and if we need to soften that at all, that's starting to come together lovely. And then next we will go back in all those places with Acacia pear and highlight. So I'll come back and show you some of those details as well. Okay, so I'm going to do some highlighting on this one with you. You can see the difference, like on the ones I've got highlighting, and all I've done has been just one soft float with the bigger angle brush, the 1/2 inch, and white. I've been using casement. Okay, now this one with the sweet peas, I wanted to mention that on there is like the little calyxes at the bottom of these flowers, so don't forget those. And then you might want to use the smaller angle brush for them. just a teensy bit on our brush, and we will just highlight the very tops of the calyx pieces with white. So I'm going to pull down a little bit more. I probably took too much off. I'm just rubbing the paint off, offloading it. Okay, I want to dry brush in the direction that things are growing. So can you see the difference? Just softens that green. So I'm going to finish doing that. I'm going to get these flowers done to a point where I think that I have something else to show you, and I'll be back. All right, guys, we are all done. I finished floating, dry brushing, gluing them together, and then I just took yarn and tied it around a couple times and then slipped the little tag through and tied a bow. Some of them are a little bit more on the wonky side, but I just don't know exactly where they're going. I actually now am thinking that like it would be cute as a banner someplace, and then the tag hangs down, but I don't know where I would do that. So not committing to anything yet, but I will probably take the yarn off and stain the back of the tag and the back of this. I always do that, and then I haven't. So, and then I haven't done the back of this either. I didn't finish the backs of any of these. Okay, but I wanted to come back on and show you how to assemble the little flower on here. Now, I've taken some beads and I just throw my beads into a cup. I put a teeny bit of paint and then I spray it with water, roll them around, and then dump them onto wax paper to dry. Some of them, I got different sizes here. Sometimes if you don't move them when they're drying, you get little bits and pieces that rub off. You can touch that with paint, or because of the weathered nature of our pieces, it's probably okay. And if you want these to be a different color, they can be too. I just wasn't 100% sure that I was keeping this together as a tassel, so I just left them white. Okay, you can use jute, but the yarn works for me and my style. Oh, and the other thing is I just lightly sanded the edges of everything the same as we did with these flowers after I had it all glued on. Okay, This is a piece of heavy, you can't even see it. It's a piece of heavy fishing line, and I fold it in half. This is how I thread my beads on. So I will put the, yeah, you're not even gonna be able to see, but I put my yarn through, trying to hold it so maybe you can see it, but anyhow, I put my yarn through there, and I think I'm just gonna go with these smaller beads. I wasn't sure what I was gonna use, that's why I painted both sides. Oh, wait, sorry. Put this through the bead first. Then put the yarn through the fishing line, pull the fishing line through the bead. Okay, and then you've got it all the way down. I am not threading them all on because I want to stain the back of this. And then I don't know how many I've put on, 5 or 6, but this is what I need to show you. Okay, so one, I painted the wrong side of this. This is the side that needs to be painted, but glue that on there. So imagine that that is glued together. This fits through, all lined up, right? And then, oh, how does it go? That's not all together here. So, but anyhow, it's close like that. And then that just glues on top of there, and then that is on the end of your tassel. Now you can make a tassel on the end of here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet and how I'm going to style it, but you'll see all of that in the photos when it is all done. So thank you for joining me, and I hope that you enjoy this cute little project and that you learned a few different things. And if you want to see more pieces with more floating and shading and painting techniques like that, just leave a comment and I will do more. I would gladly do more of them. So anyhow, we'll see you next time. Bye.